Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games and part 2 of our How to Play Warcry series. I'm Lee, and in this video we'll go through fighter and ability cards. Now we've gone through the introduction to the core rules and you know all the tools you need to get started, let's take a look at the second part of our How to Play Warcry, and that's the fighter and ability cards. Each fighter in a warband has a corresponding fighter card which details that fighter's characteristics. These characteristics include their movement, toughness, how many wounds they can take, and also the weapons that they're armed with and the rune marks that each fighter has. Each warband will come with their unique ability card that details unique attacks and maneuvers that they can use during the battle. On the back of each ability card, you'll see a list and pictures of all the different types of fighters that can be included in that warband. Sometimes you'll have multiple miniatures for the same type of fighter. If this is the case, then there'll be one fighter type card that is shared by a number of miniatures. To combat this, you'll see that each warband comes with two divider cards. These can be placed under a fighter card to allow that fighter card to be shared by multiple fighters, and that way you can keep track of any tokens that apply to those individual fighters. Here you can see that we have two K-Knight Shadow Stalkers and they're both sharing the same fighter card. Using the divider card we can keep track of all their damage points and even their activation and weight tokens. Now we'll go through one of the fighter cards and we'll use the Shroud Queen as an example. On the fighter card you'll have the image of the fighter, and this will match your miniature. You'll have the points value, the faction or warband rune mark, and any rune marks here that might relate to either an ability or some other part of the game, such as the mount rune mark or the minion rune mark. Then we've got our movement characteristic, our toughness characteristic, and our wound characteristic. Our movement is always in inches, so the Shroud Queen can move 6 inches per action. We'll cover the toughness in a later video, and this here is how many wounds she can take, and she can take 20 wounds. Once she's used all 20 wounds up, she would be classed as taken down and removed from the battlefield. And then moving down the card, we have a choice of 2 weapons with the Shroud Queen, and not all fighters will have 2 weapons, but we've got 2 here, and these denote the types of weapons. So we've got a sword and some kind of flail or some kind of weapon that can be used at range. And then breaking it down, we've got our range characteristic, our attack characteristic, our strength characteristic, and our damage output. Our range is always in inches. Our attack characteristic, this denotes how many dice we can roll for each attack. So you can see here for the flail weapon, we can make 3 attacks, so that's 3d6 dice. But with our sword, we can make 4 attacks, so we can use 4d6 dice. We'll cover how we use our strength and toughness characteristics later when we get into the action phase, and we'll also cover how we use our damage output characteristics to inflict damage on other miniatures. Some fighters only have 1 weapon, but they can also have more abilities, and you can see here we've got our Blazing Lord, and he's just got the sword, but he's got 2 abilities as well as his rune mark for the faction there. Now we'll take a look at our ability cards, and we'll use the K-Knight Shadow Stalker's ability card as our example. And so you can see here at the top of the card, we're going to get our warband or faction name. We'll get our faction rune mark, and then this faction rune mark matches the faction rune mark on the fighter card. Then we have all different rune marks running down for each ability, and these are the rune marks that denote which fighter can use which ability. So for example, if a fighter has the faction rune mark, they can use this double ability here called Shadow Leap, and they can also use the triple called Dance of Death. They won't be able to use any of the other abilities unless they have both rune marks. So our Shroud Queen has got the faction or warband rune mark, and she's also got this other rune mark here, which is the leader rune mark. So she can also use the quad ability called Ensnare in Darkness. As well as all these abilities that are unique to each warband, every warband that plays a battle can use some universal abilities that come in the core rulebook. We'll go through those in a later video and delve a lot deeper into abilities, and then we'll also go through some examples and see them playing out on the battlefield. On the reverse side of the ability card, we still get the warband or faction name at the top and the faction rune mark, and then we get an image of each fighter type and with a description that goes along with that fighter type. So you see here that some of the models can be used with different weapons, so they're going to be a totally different fighter type, and they'll usually have a different fighter card for each one. And here you can see we've got the Scions of the Flame ability card now with the completely different rune mark for the Scions of the Flame faction, and then they've got a lot more different fighter types which are all laid out on the back of the card. If we flip this over, you'll also see that all the different abilities are now different, so they're unique to the Scions of the Flame. And here you'll see the Scions of the Flame warband rune mark, but these rune marks will be the same for all different warbands. So this one is the universal rune mark for a leader, for example. That's everything we need to know for the fighter and ability cards. So now let's move on to part 3, where we'll go through the general rules and look at how we measure distance. I hope you found this video helpful. Please join in and comment below with any thoughts or additions you'd like to make. It'd be great to hear from you. The next video in the series will play right after this one in the playlist, and I'll also put links in the description below to every video in the series. Thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more Warcry content like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.